We passed Kenmore Square.
In this video we're going to be discussing the controversy surrounding Warner Brothers and their decision to destroy an entire movie. The movie in question is the unreleased Coyote vs. Acme, which is an original Looney Tunes feature that is already fully complete, and just like the Batgirl situation from a little while ago, this movie is on the verge of being shelved indefinitely. And this was spoken about in November 2023, and if shelved as a tax write-off, the studio would take $30 million for the project that originally cost $70 million. But unlike the Batgirl film, which remains unfinished, the fact that this movie is actually complete is a unique circumstance that opens up further opportunities, but also a lot of questions. For example, shopping the movie around other networks, which has been done already to no avail, and sadly it would cost Warner far too much money than they would be willing to spend to release the movie themselves theatrically. Therefore, as things currently stand, it's not looking promising that this movie will ever see the light of day. Coyote vs. Acme was slated for a release in July 2023, which obviously didn't happen, and from what I've read it was going to be released onto the service that was formerly HBO Max, but the studio would rather now focus on theatrical films instead. And directed by Dave Green, Coyote vs. Acme stars Will Forte and John Cena amongst others. It combines live action and animation centered around fan-favourite Looney Tunes character Wile E. Coyote, the self-proclaimed genius.
I am a genius by trade.
Unlike the Batgirl movie, things have changed in recent news surrounding this project. We're not talking about just a write-off at this point. Coyote vs. Acme was shopped around other distributors such as Netflix, Amazon, and Paramount, and the asking price was considered extremely unreasonable at the full $70 million, and where studios would counter-offer a lower figure in favour of hopefully securing the rights to the film, little did they realise Warner was offering the film on a one-time pretense. This is how much we want, $70 million, take it or leave it. Unfortunately, as it stands, nobody did secure the distribution rights for the movie, and it feels as though Warner is more interested in the tax break consuming the film, rather than allowing the Looney Tunes IP to be seen as a success elsewhere. Naturally, this would embarrass the company, and to permanently delete and destroy the hard work from dedicated creatives really does show just how little the company cares for its own projects. It would rather save face financially and suffer public backlash. And what's alarming about this situation going forward is how the studio is writing off certain projects as though this is a normal thing to do. If the outrage of the public is not heard and understood, this could become the norm for studios to do as a standard practice. I have made videos previously discussing the Warner Bros. Discovery merger, looking at the damage it has done to certain creators. We've lost some incredible shows due to cancellations and properties again being written off for tax purposes, Final Space being the perfect example of a property done dirty. And all of this has happened under the careful guidance of current CEO David Zaslav. Yes, of course I'm being facetious when I say careful guidance. This man has absolutely no idea what he's doing other than slashing debt where possible with no consideration for the projects involved. And Zaslav appears to have a personal vendetta against animation in particular, likely because of how expensive it is. With this ruining the legacy of the Warner Brothers name, sadly, certain intellectual properties continue to suffer, and in turn passionate creatives involved in projects like the Coyote vs. Acme movie suffer more than anybody, and as the audience lose out on future entertainment, seeing this kind of hard work on the chopping block and having no control over its release to the public is for sure a sad situation. From what we do know and what we've heard about the Coyote vs. Acme movie, it seemed to test well with a positive response from focus screenings. I find it ironic how Warner doesn't want to release a potentially good theatrical Looney Tunes movie to make up for the god-awful disaster being Space Jam 2. And looking at what people have said about the screenings of Coyote vs. Acme, comedian and actor Paul Scheer spoke very highly about the film publicly after attending a screening, and he's quoted, and I'll read, saying, What was so exciting was that it felt like the film captured the voice of the Looney Tunes that we love in a way that none of the other feature versions have ever done. If the movie is written off for tax-related purposes, that's it, it's done so. It can't be seen by the public, and despite these initial reports of positivity, regardless of how those involved with the movie feel about the project, their opinion matters very little in this scenario. There's been no real justifiable reason as to why Warner wants this movie to be silenced and to never see the light of day, other than I guess hiding behind vague publicity phrases. In an article with Variety, an unnamed spokesperson commented on how the studio was making these difficult decisions to fit the new plans for Warner, and Coyote vs. Acme was actually greenlit under the former boss, Jason Kellar. Therefore, Zaslav doesn't feel like it fits with the new direction of theatrical movie releases for the company. Obviously, things do go deeper than that, and I guess it depends on which project you are looking into. Obviously, in this case, we're looking at Coyote vs. Acme, and Zaslav, ironically, hasn't even seen the movie. He couldn't spare 90 minutes to see this film and judge whether or not it was worth releasing to the public theatrically. There is no pride in the product that they have available, just corporate greed standing in the way once again. Looking at some hilarious conjecture I found online, I wouldn't be surprised if the Warner executives were sore about the movie based on the plot alone. The premise involves Coyote suing Acme, a major corporation, and I've seen many people argue about how the film could potentially give people ideas about suing a large company for performing shady actions. Could hiding this film really be about protecting Warner just in case the Coyote gives people ideas? I think that's a laughable debate at best. Personally, I'm more disappointed in the fact that this project is being buried like this without even being given a proper chance to capture audiences. And it sounds like a fun idea for a film based on a 90s New Yorker article poking fun at the idea of Coyote suing the Acme Corporation. There's a lot of potential with bringing a classic character like this to the big screen, especially if the adaptation is faithful. I've been a lifelong fan of Looney Tunes, and although I probably wouldn't have gone out of my way to see this movie under usual circumstances, I would definitely give this a watch if it does receive a public release. Speaking of a public release for the movie, I'd be very surprised if this ordeal becomes some kind of elaborate publicity stunt. Causing outrage across social media, if Warner decides to finally release the movie, perhaps more people will be inclined to watch it and support the project. After all the trouble that has been caused surrounding it, I feel this result would ideally increase the earnings for the movie, especially since the last theatrical Looney Tunes project was considered a box office bomb, again being Space Jam 2. So, what does the future look like for this movie? Well, unfortunately, it's not looking too bright at this point in time. In November 2023, the initial backlash against Warner for shelving the project was enough to convince the studio to shop the project around. Little did we realize this was basically fixed to a point where the studio wouldn't sell the project anyway for any less than what it cost them. In short, we're back to where we started. It's looking more likely the film will be shelved and deleted, and I genuinely do feel sorry for those that have been involved and strung along by Warner throughout the assembly of this film. I feel sorry for director Dave Green in particular, who was reportedly extremely proud of the film's final cut, and to have poured 3 years worth of effort into a project that you'll never see a public response to, that's gotta hurt to say the least. And even though the decision to erase the movie does feel final, I really do hope at least talking about the situation will inspire change across the industry. Deleting a completed movie, especially to write it off for tax purposes, should not be a viable way to handle a project. Defending films like Coyote vs. Acme, I've seen large names hope to adjust, unions like the Animation Guild for example, to amend their small print stopping movies being written off completely. Whether something like this could actually enforce change for the Coyote vs. Acme film is a different story, but it's a promising start to hopefully put an end to Zaslav's destruction of beloved ideas. Anyway, that's going to do it for this discussion/rant video. I hope you did enjoy. If you found this topic interesting, please do leave me a like down below. Let me know in the comments how you feel about this difficult situation for the Coyote vs. Acme movie. If it did release, would you go and see it under these circumstances? And for more videos, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, DVD Review Studios.
Are you threatening me?